Sex is a combination of pleasure, ego, and just like authenticity. So you need that ego pleased, and the only way you're gonna get that ego pleased fully is when you know that she had a good time too, or when you know that he had a good time too.
What's going on, everybody? I am popping in to let you know that this video is sponsored by Squarespace. From websites to online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a powerful, beautiful online presence today and run that business you've been wanting to start. So if you haven't checked them out, go over to squarespace.com/shambooty and start playing around for free. And when you're ready to launch, just go to squarespace.com/shambooty and give that business a shot. Now back to the video.
What was your earliest memory of acknowledging yourself as a sexual person?
I remember this time in, I want to say, 3rd grade. And I remember me and my friend, we were sitting under our desk and we were talking, and he was like, man, I can't wait to be married. And I was like, why? And then he was like, because then you get to have sex. And then like from then on, I was like obsessed with sex. Like I was trying to find it everywhere. You know, anything like kissing in movies and things like that. And so, yeah, it was just a thought. And I just remember thinking to myself, yeah, I can't wait to be married. I didn't even know what sex was though.
Was it his excitement that got you excited?
Yeah, it was like, I was like, why is he so hyped about this? What is this? I wonder how he knew about it so early.
Yeah. When was your first time self-pleasuring?
It was, this is so embarrassing to talk about. This is so whack. I remember my friend speaking about masturbation. Like he was like, do you guys masturbate? And I didn't know what it was. I was like, what is that? What is that? And he's like, it's when you rub your until it just can't rub it no more. And I was like, huh. So later that night, I went into the restroom and I tried.
Let's put some ages to this.
Yeah.
When was the first age you masturbated? When did you first watch porn? And
Yeah.
then when did you start watching more explicit content regularly?
So the first time I masturbated, I was probably similar, like I was like 4th grade, 5th grade. And then the first time that I saw porn, it was around that same age.
You live in a 2-parent household. Your parents are not together and they never were together. And both parents, though, are equally religious.
Yeah.
So then how did religion weave into your ideas about sexuality as you were just starting to form what sex was to you?
It was bad. It was no. And we were always taught that this was going to ruin your marriage. Like, this is going to be the reason why your marriage doesn't work out. And so every time that I did experience either masturbation...
Isn't that so interesting? And now your marriage is like based on sex?
I know, right? It was the only way it was going to work. But no, it was like I started to, every time that I had my experience, either masturbating, looking up porn, even the sexual experience with another, like in real life, it felt like I was deteriorating my marriage in the future.
Okay, so this is a story I know well. Your first experience having what you would refer to as full-on sex.
I was a freshman in high school, and she sat in front of me. I remember seeing her and being like, she's a really good-looking woman, and she's way older than me. And so I was hitting on her and not thinking anything would actually happen. Like, I just wanted the story of, like, Jared was so brave and he hit on a senior. Like, that was, like, where I was trying to go with it. So I was like, oh, we're gonna have a flirty relationship, and that was where I was gonna go. One day I had made the joke, like, I want you to take my virginity. And then she was like, no, are you serious? And I was like, yeah. And so I remember when I was texting this, I was in football, like, gym. I was like, you know, during practice, where we were working out. And then all the guys were like, you better do that, or you're just whack if you don't. And so I was like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. So I sent her the address. She came, but she came over, and I like snuck her into like this back house that we had, and we had sex. And I remember being like so nervous that I could not finish.
And then when did you start to feel like I have a handle on my sex life? Things aren't happening to me, I'm happening to it.
Honestly, not until I graduated high school. Like, even once I got into my first relationship was when I started to feel like I had control over sex and I knew how to have it. You know, protection-wise, experience-wise, how to pleasure women, how to get my pleasure, what I like. I learned that all through my first relationship.
A lot of times when I've done these interviews with guys, what I think is a really fascinating fact is they all went through this phase of an uncontrollable desire.
Oh, for sure. When you're from like 13 to probably 20, it's this nonstop drive to come. You know, especially if you become like alone, if everyone leaves the house, it's almost a guarantee.
I think that's an interesting fact because in my teens, I experienced so much coercion and crazy things were said to me. Like, I will marry you. I will have your kids. I want to be with you forever. Like, literally anything. Like, my dick's going to fall off. I'm in so much pain. Please, please, please. And you think that by giving or sharing your body in that way, it's going to form a bond. But you have to also acknowledge that person is just so desperate that they will say anything in that moment.
Yeah. I mean, and that's not to be, you know, taken lightly. I think it really falls on like being educated on what's going on in your body. You know what I mean? I don't think most young boys are taught that this is what's happening. Yes, you're taught that puberty's gonna happen, and you're taught like you're gonna grow facial hair and all these things, but I don't think it's really taught to them like, hey, just so you know, you're gonna be wanting to have sex extremely strong. It's gonna pull you to do some crazy things. Always keep it in check.
Do you think you got any good sex education outside of partners and porn?
I was taught how to have a baby and not have a baby. And, you know, like even growing up in my household, like it was like, don't even have sex. Condoms don't work. How do you think you got here? So I didn't even trust condoms to be safe. Like I thought that like swimmers gonna swim through it.
Because you did condom plus pull-out method.
Yeah, well, my entire time of having sex.
So in your 20s, you're with a long-term partner. You feel like you figured out sex. How would you describe that decade?
Early 20s was cool. Like I had a partner, we were having sex. I don't know how focused I was on her pleasure per se. I liked when she had pleasure, but I wasn't trying to learn new tricks. I wasn't trying to, you know, learn off of her. I was having sex and I felt like I knew what I was doing, but when I look back at it, I don't think I did. And then when I got out of that relationship is when I think I started focusing on female pleasure more. And I think that had to do because I wasn't in a relationship with any of them, that I was having sex after that. I felt like I was really just focused on learning at that time and wanting to be good and wanting my reputation to be good. So I didn't hesitate to be like, what can I do better or how do I learn from this? And I think in that relationship, it was because I felt that security of being in the relationship that I was like, if she had a problem, she would tell me, which is not always the case. You know, sometimes it's embarrassing to tell your partner, hey, you're doing this pretty shitty.
Yeah.
Figure it out. And then I think right after that, we met.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah. I'm your early 20s.
You were in that time where I was trying to learn.
Because I met you at 24?
Yeah.
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 It's crazy.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating because I tell you this all the time. I always got the question of, how did you find somebody who wasn't intimidated, or aren't people very intimidated? And I immediately knew with you that that was not the case. And then later on you divulged to me that your interest was piqued by what I did for a living. It wasn't a turnoff for you.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I think I was going through a very promiscuous time at the time. So I think the fact that you were a sexual educator, it was like, this is gonna sound bad, but I think I came into it being like, oh, I'm about to learn some shit so that when I have sex with other people, I'm gonna put it down.
Yeah.
You know, that was like kind of my mindset. But I think if I came into our experience being like, I have to impress her, I have to like, you know, figure this out because if I don't, then she's not gonna, you know, want to be with me. I think if I came in with that energy, I think you would have thought I was threatened by what you did. But since I came into it kind of like going with the flow and being like, what is she doing? Let's try new things. Let's explore here. Like, I think that was a little bit of why it didn't feel like I was threatened by what you were doing.
Mm-hmm. Do you look back at sex in your 20s and think, I'm sorry to those people?
What I understand about the female anatomy is light years away of what I did, right? If I cared about their pleasure, I would have been looking this stuff up on YouTube. But I'm leaning on them to teach me what they like, right? And so, and a lot of times in those younger relationships, I don't think that she or they were ever comfortable telling me exactly what they like. I think that they would just like react if I did something that they liked. And then I would just keep doing that thing. But I feel like in this relationship, it's more or less like I'm always constantly learning new things. I mean, how many times do we have sex and you're like, did you try something new?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's because of that, like that to me is seeking, female pleasure or prioritizing their pleasure, because it's like, there's so many different ways to pleasure a woman.
So for anybody who's watching this and wants, to kind of take home tips, what are 3 things that you say would make a good lover? Obviously with the caveat that there's no one size fits all. But if you were to say, hey, if you were to have sex with Jared, these 3 things would make you a good partner to me. What are those 3 things?
I think if you come into every sexual experience with a new partner thinking, I am maybe good at sex, but I'm not good at sex with you just yet. I think going into it with your complete authentic self is going to make the experience better. Sex is a combination of pleasure, ego, and just like authenticity. So you need that ego pleased, and the only way you're gonna get that ego pleased fully is when you know that she had a good time too, or when you know that he had a good time too.
There are a lot of people, specifically people with vulvas, who only focus on their partner's pleasure. Does that also make somebody possibly a bad partner?
I think so. I mean, like I said, I think you need your ego pleased as well, and that's gonna make the experience great. I know it's not like a nice thing to say, but like, let's be real. We all want to know that we did our thing in sex.
Yeah.
And that's the ego being stroked. And the only way you're gonna get that ego stroked completely is if you know, like for a fact, that she had a good time. I mean, I get it. You're in a long-term relationship. Most of the time, you're gonna be like bigging up your partner, like, oh, it was so good, when it really wasn't, just to give him that ego squeeze. But if you want that true ego squeeze, like, make sure she does have a good time.
What's been your relationship with sexual health, and where are you at now with it?
I was like super extremely focused on sexual health, and I think that only had to do with my fear with sex. And so I had this fear that like God was gonna strike me with a baby or strike me with an illness because I was going against his back. So I was getting tested often. I always strapped up with every sexual experience that I had, and it was like a huge focus on me. I don't think it was a huge focus on me to protect myself per se, but it was a huge focus on me being like, you're not gonna catch me slipping, God. Like, you know what I mean? But I guess in turn it was a good thing.
Babe, this was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I had a great time. I don't think anything else I want to ask you. I think you did great.
All right. Sweet.
What's poppin'? It's me again. Listen, I know you hear us talk about Squarespace all the time, and that is because we legit use it all the time. I mean, we use Squarespace to make Shan's website. We use Squarespace to make my website. We use Squarespace to make Shan's Game of Desire website. We use Squarespace to make the wedding registry, and we use Squarespace to sell Shan's courses. And if you haven't taken one of her courses yet, go over to their website, get some information on it, because there's another one coming real soon. I let the cat out the bag. I wasn't supposed to tell y'all, but there's another one coming, so go check it out. Be first to learn about her courses. Listen, when I tell you we love Squarespace, trust me, we love Squarespace. It's so user-friendly. Even for me, who has no idea how to code, I find that I can customize any one of our websites effortlessly. They have slick, fresh templates, blogging tools, and amazing in-depth analytics. And if you have a mailing list, you should look into switching to Squarespace because they are so much more cost efficient than these other guys. And I'm telling you, these other guys get expensive. Squarespace is the way to go to start building that 2021 business that you've been thinking about starting. So what are you waiting for? If you haven't done so, head over to squarespace.com, start playing around with their free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/shambooty to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. What are you waiting for? Start that business. It's waiting on you. Go get it. Go do it. Go get it. Go do it. Hey, hey. Go get it. Hey, hey. Go do it. Hey. Go get it. Okay. Squarespace.com/shambooty.
Baby, don't I got you dripping in a Tesla, you fucking up all the leather. I just checked, I got a checker, we fucking it up together. Don't lie, don't I, don't I, don't I, don't I. I can't help but flex it all.